Hello, everybody out there. Hello, America. It's great to be with you today. American Awakening Squad, Signs of Life, coming to you this Monday and really, really early in the morning, Hawaii time, where Jeff Bethany is.
Yes.
There you go.
And I look like it.
So what you know, if you've been following us, is that we are showing up here every day, 6 days a week, starting this week, live stream, and then in podcast with the Relevant Network to bring you the most important things to remember in your life right now. That is basically that you're made for purpose and meaning and significance. It's painful out there. It's tough out there. It's hard out there, but you're made for this. Adversity is hard. Life is difficult, but you're made to overcome that. And we're going to bring you word of that every single day with my teammates. We are showing up here every day, 6 days a week, starting this week, live. And I'm getting feedback here. Am I doing okay out there? All right, so I think we're fixed now. And while we're straightening out the technical issues here, we're going to kick this over to our friend Josh Jacob to kick off the music portion of the show. Josh, give us something good.
All right. Hope you all had a great weekend. I'm going to do some John Mark McMillan, and I hope you like it. Daylight comes to meet you on the road like a prodigal son, prodigal home that you gave up on when you were young, yeah, but daylight is coming on. Oh, we live on the edge of darkness, oh, we live on the edge of the darkness, oh, daylight is coming on. Heaven bends low for the naked and the poor to settle up a debt, to settle up a score, to set up a table on the edge of a war, 'cause we've been bleeding on the edge of a sword. We live on the edge of darkness, oh, we live on the edge of a darkness, oh, but daylight is coming on. Yeah, daylight is coming on. Ooh, we live on the edge of the darkness, oh, we live on the edge of the darkness, oh, daylight is coming on. We live on the edge of the darkness, oh, we live on the edge of the darkness, oh, but daylight is coming on.
Ooh, that's a way to start Monday right there.
Yeah, good. Daylight's coming.
Woo! That's good. That's what I was looking for. A little reminder that living on that edge of darkness, but daylight's coming on. And that is a good theme line for this show, because we're going to be bringing that to you every single day we're here to tell you you're made for purpose, you're made for meaning, you're made for significance. God loves you. You got a purpose. I think you're here to overcome this adversity that you're in right now. With that, I'm going to kick this over to our friend in Florida, Joel Searby. Pastor Joel, what do you got for us today, friend?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our show. We're so glad you're here. I really feel compelled this morning or this afternoon to start off by just speaking directly to any of you who are watching that may be experiencing job loss, insecurity, worry, concern. And I just want to let you know that we are here for you. We feel you. One of the purposes of this whole effort is so that you can have someone in a place that is speaking out hope and light and life into your life. And so if you're struggling with that, you can put it in the comment if you're willing, or you can message us, or you can email us at info@americanawakening.us, and we would love to pray for you and with you. You know, as we start out on Monday, a lot of us are trying to continue regular lives and really trying to find new rhythms in our work and our leadership. If you're a leader out there specifically, I want to challenge us this morning, or today, excuse me, I want to challenge us to think about how we start our days and our weeks off, because it's very easy for us to say, let me start by figuring out what I need today. What do I need to do? How am I going to manage this day, whether it's my work, my family, or my personal life? And there's this interesting thing that happens in the kingdom of God where he tends to flip things upside down and surprise us in really interesting ways. And I think there's a real principle here that we can live by, which is that instead of starting our days and our weeks off by just figuring out what's on our priority list, we can actually say, God, what's on your priority list for me? We can say to our friends and to our neighbors, how can I serve you this week or this day? Instead of just diving right in. It's so easy to do that. You know, this year I started using a new planner, Michael Hyatt's Full Focus. If you're listening, I'm showing this to our folks right now on our video cast. Michael Hyatt's got a great planner, and it's really important to keep our lives organized. And one of the things that he talks a lot about is making sure you have manageable chunks of things to do in your first big 3 of the day. What am I going to get done today? And what I'm saying is do that, plan your life well, but don't plan your life in such a way that you forget God at the outset. You forget others at the outset. And so my challenge to us today is to say, when we get our life ordered correctly, when we say, God, what do you want from me today? How do you love me? How can I love others today? Then we can more effectively and efficiently go on about our day, especially in this time when everything is new. We're finding new routines. So my encouragement is start your day saying, where does God want me? Where can I serve others? And then work on your priorities for the week. So that's my encouragement. That's your daily dose for the day. John, back to you.
Joe, one of the things I'd like to just pick up in that bit that you just did, and thank you so much as always, is the idea of us being here for you. We're here to show up every day to speak light and life every single day. And we do pray for you all. You know, the team gets on a call 10 o'clock Eastern for us to take up the concerns of our viewing audience and our other ministers and the folks that are leading out there. We're thinking about you every day. So Joel is straight up for real on that topic. We're thinking about you all the time. Sure. I can say, to be fair, we don't ask Jeff to get on the phone because it's 4 o'clock for him. So that's
right.
The rest of us are there.
I'm still praying in my sleep though while that's happening.
Of course, because you pray without ceasing even in the dead of night, right?
That's right.
Amen.
Over to you, Jeff.
Amen. Oh, that was so good, Joel. I love that. Now, what I wanted to chat about today is, again, something to chew on. And one thing I was thinking on is there's kind of a creativity boom happening right now during this crisis, right? People are having a little bit more time on their hands, thinking a little bit more outside of the box, and a little bit more different circumstances. And so a lot of people are coming up with really creative solutions, really cool new ideas, etc. And it reminded me of this one study on creativity that I love. I read this like 7 years ago. I spent a whole chapter on one of my books expounding on it in regards to actually how it has implications for us as kingdom citizens. But I forget the guy's name. I think it was George something, a researcher back in the 60s or 70s. And what he did is he first actually looked at this. He had this test he devised to test creativity and what he called divergent thinking, meaning the ability you would measure above a certain level, then you had divergent thinking, and that's kind of the ability to diverge from the traditional thinking, think outside of the box, be creative. He devised this for NASA to kind of actually help them pick the right engineers, the right scientists, and people that could really kind of lead programs that are needed to think outside the box. But then he got this random idea where he said, this test is doing so well in helping us with NASA. Why don't I give this test to children? I'd love to see what children do in regards to how they take this test. And he, changed little things and stuff like that, but he's still same test of trying to test kids' divergent thinking. Now, to the squad back in the squares, I'm going to ask you in a second a quick poll. But he gave this test to the kids, okay, and he devised his own one, and then tested them on their level of divergent thinking. Now, if you reached a certain threshold of divergent thinking, according to his test, you were seen as genius. Like you tested at a genius level of divergent thinking. Now, to you guys out there, and you can say in the comments too, real quick, before other people guess here on the Hollywood Squares, but John, Marissa, the rest of the team, what would you guys say when he gave this to a group of a couple thousand children? How many tested collectively as genius level? What would you guys say?
All of them.
Okay, that's a little too far, not all of them. What would you say? Any other guesses?
I was going to go
85%.
80%.
85%, I heard that. What were some other ones?
80.
80, that's pretty good. Okay, so both you guys put the bookmarks right there. So he tested, all the kids collectively tested at 98% genius level, which is pretty crazy. So I feel bad for the 2%, right? But 98% of kids, 5 years old, he actually tested 3 to 5 year olds, tested at genius level with divergent thinking. Now, why this is important is because he made it a longitudinal study. So he then gave this test to the same kids over every 5 years. Now, do you want to guess what they tested at when they were 31 years old is when he did the next test at the final end of the stage? That was 2%. So it went from 98% to then basically 2% towards the end. And the whole premise of the study that he found is basically that our education system and our industrialized way of teaching people how to learn has actually coached and taught out of them all levels of divergent thinking and creativity, which makes sense, right? Because at the scale we're at with the country, we have to shove people in kind of this industrialized model that's about answers, not concepts. And it's about doing the right thing on the piece of paper, not actually learning. And so that's just something to chew on for today. Can you say that your trajectory and the things you're thinking out are putting your life on a trajectory of creativity, of thinking outside of the box and divergent thinking? Because you have to really swim upstream to go against the grain. And so, man, we all have genius in us. We all have a level of creativity that's in there. We just have to dig and kind of take back the layers that's been compounded on. And I think people are actually seeing that right now with this crisis moment, and it's super, super encouraging. So that's something to chew on for today. And back to the team.
A regular feature of our show here is that we seem to draw out topics that are too big to cover in the time. I feel like I want to dive in the rest of the show on now, man.
But it's a fun one, huh?
98% to 2% and the implications, what does that mean? I mean, look, you and I could go 2 hours on that topic and we're giving it like 3 minutes. So
right. We should have like a Signs of Life after show.
There we go.
Oh.
The after party.
Okay.
The after party, yes.
So we've got a regular feature, which is so that's happening. Wow! I'm going to kick it over to Calvin. But first, I hear that there's a knockoff version of our show being done this weekend by John Krasinski. Is that right? I mean, how dare
Are you
he
calling out Jim right now?
How dare Krasinski copy
SGN, some good news. Good show.
We see you, Jim. We see you.
Yes, exactly. So, Calvin, what do you got for us?
All right. So for Wow That's Happening, trying to bring you some headlines, just signs of life, what's going on in the world. Corona has certainly impacted us all, that we know for sure, but those without homes are particularly vulnerable to the effects of the virus. But Boston is making some big moves to protect the homeless during Corona. So Suffolk University is opening up Miller Hall, a 172-bed dorm in downtown Boston, to care for the homeless. It will be managed by the Boston Public Health Commission and Pine Street Inn, one of the city's best-known homeless services providers. Suffolk University President Marissa Kelly said in a statement, "We stand ready to help in any way. Boston is our home, and the university takes very seriously its responsibility to be a good citizen at a time when we are all being called upon to pitch in and help." We, all of us here, we're grateful for those words, President Kelly, and appreciate the example that you and the university are setting at this time. Another example of loving your neighbor is being set by Columbia Sportswear CEO Tom Boyle. So putting his employees before himself, Mr. Boyle has reduced his salary to $10,000 so that all his employees can receive their regular wages. This even includes the retail workers who did work at currently closed locations. And Mr. Boyle's decision has also inspired more than 10 of his top executives at Columbia to voluntarily take a 15% pay cut. It's amazing. To make less, to give more, to love another person enough to act in a way that benefits them over yourself is a powerful thing. We all know that. And that kind of love is courageous and bold, and a foundation of
this radical togetherness that we keep on talking about. So for Mr. Boyle and the execs around him, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your boldness. The impact of your decision will certainly be remembered by Columbia's sportswear leadership and employees for years to come, but also by all of us. So, and this actually seems to flow perfectly into our discussion question of the day. So back to you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. One of the charges we're going to put out there is the idea of, with great power comes great responsibility, as we will come back to over and over and over again. And if you're in leadership, if you're somebody who's on top of the pile and taking care of a lot of folks, this is the time to show your real stripes. And this is a great example of that. The idea that everybody's feeling it in a lot of different ways. It's a great leveler, but some people are feeling it a whole lot more than other people are feeling it. And that type of example of leadership for Tom Boyle is something which we would love to promote and suggest that there's something in that for most of us out there. We're going to come back to a topic now that we teased out on last week with a Jeff Bethke legacy question. Marissa, you want to bring us back to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as John mentioned earlier, Jeff always drops these gems that become things that are much larger conversation points. We couldn't get to it last week, but here we are today. And so, yeah, he was talking about legacy and this idea that the choices that we make for ourselves and our families can determine a whole lot in our personal timelines and our collective timelines. And so, of course, now historians are talking about Corona, and they're almost all in agreement that we'll be talking about this time for generations. They're saying that basically one cause, though, for optimism, despite all the hard times that we're sharing, one thing to be optimistic about is that we as a nation can choose to seize this moment to basically turn things around after this is over and create a society that's even better situated and poised to care for its citizens, those who are the least of these. We are at a point now where once this passes, we are going to make some critical decisions about how we are with each other and policies and all sorts of things. And if you look in our past, like the Depression gave way to the Social Security Act, which promised citizens financial security in their later years. World War II brought women into the workforce and people of color into the military, and that led to equal rights and civil rights movements. And even with the financial meltdown in 2008, basically that gave rise to a whole lot of regulations and a whole lot of tools that were used to scrutinize policies. So shifting away from a larger macro sense, on a personal level, this question that we're asking you guys, we're asking each other is, how do our personal choices impact the generations? This right now is as good a time as any to be thinking about who you are and who you want to be, who you're putting out in the world, your personal legacy. So the question is, what do you want your life to represent? What do you want to pass down to the generations through the years? Guys, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to jump in real fast and say, not a big view on my side, but just to echo back to Marissa, who was teased out the question, just what I see in her and the idea of living for legacy. Before the Corona crisis hit us, it's just a remarkable example of thinking of something which doesn't have to do with herself, her own, hedonistic benefits of experience. I want this pleasure experience, or that pleasure experience. She's always thinking about something beyond herself, and it's something which has really inspired and motivated all of us in the squad here. Not only the folks that are in the squares here, but also in the office and otherwise. So you can you kind of I'm sort of. Before you ask other folks about how they think about legacy, I just want to read back that Marissa's an amazing example in ways that we'll get into in future shows about how to live for legacy, even when it's not crisis time. So when you see somebody's doing that, you can tell they're living for something bigger than themselves. Calvin, I suspect you'd agree with that one.
Oh, you know it, John. Yeah, Marissa has been a very special person to all of us, but I think the way she lives her life for with an eternal perspective, I think that is something special, and a lot of us talk about it, but to see someone and to work with someone as closely as I have for the past 18 months as we have, yeah, it's definitely been a gift and something special. So Marissa,
Thank you, guys.
thank you, sister.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
My brothers. Thank you.
I know Marissa hates the fact that we somehow turned this back on her. And the earlier scripting run through we did, this didn't come up, but I felt like we couldn't let the moment pass. Bigger picture than just our team, Jeff. What do you think about when you're thinking about this?
Yeah, I love that thought and how you guys are bringing that conversation to the forefront. I think, I think we don't realize enough in the West because of our comfortability how much usually that people who have a large impact and a large legacy have it because of deeply formative, difficult experiences, right? So right. Some of the most beautiful people we know, anyone you can name really quickly on the top of your head, most likely have been through some type of serious challenge and come out the other side well, softer, more gentle, more resilient. The book I'm thinking of with this kind of current season right now is Anti-Fragile. Highly recommend that book and actually the science on that. And he kind of talks about, well, a lot of us are akin to flames, right? And a lot of Americans think that we're, that some wind can blow out a flame, but we also know what can wind also do to a flame. It can actually make it a bigger fire. And we're more like that second version, right? That we can actually become a more resilient fire when the wind starts coming at us. And so I just think, see this season as a deeply formative time of challenges and difficulties that'll actually form us into the people we're meant to be. One last nugget I'll give people is the Pope, his homily this last weekend, yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was fire. It was amazing. It was it was one of the best sermons I've seen around this season so far. And he had a little section in there where he kind of used this metaphor with the disease, of course, and antibodies. And he talks about how this is actually a season of developing antibodies emotionally and spiritually, because he kind of says we're too comfortable, we're too fat, we're too enriched, we're too bloated. And we've developed no antibodies to any type of difficulty or challenges. And he said this is kind of the season to develop antibodies. And I thought that was just incredible. And so that's what I'm thinking through in regards to then doing that can then, I think, have a legacy down the road.
Wow, he dropped Talib and Anti-Fragile and the Pope all in one little.
Love it.
I know. Joel, what are you thinking, man?
Well, as usual, I'm going to take it down to the less informed and academic level. I was thinking last night and talking to my wife.
Greek. Talked about that last week. I don't.
Okay, I know a little bit of Greek, but Anyways, I was talking to my wife Jen last night we were talking about our grandmothers and how they both had a trait in them that we describe as frugality. I mean, I don't know about if you have a grandmother who was a Depression grandmother, she might be a little bit like my grandmother, which is that she had every little Tupperware, like her butter tub, her Cool Whip tub. She kept it all, and there was the leftovers in every single one, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
That's right. You hear me. And so I think, tying that in with Marissa's legacy is what are the basic everyday things that we're going to be doing now that are actually leaving a legacy? And, what I see Marissa doing is just calling out faith every day, believing. That's like an intangible but everyday kind of thing. And then I think there's some things like frugality, like planning your days, like taking advantage of your family in good ways that are going to come out of this too. So that's what I'm thinking about is what kind of everyday rhythms am I developing in this time that are going to leave legacy for my kids?
Well, I know for my own part that I want my everyday rhythms and my legacy to be a lot better than currently experienced. So it's like a daily challenge of, to think, well, do you want to go, do you want to live in disciplines? Do you want to be, more mature? Do you want to have better rhythms? Open question sometimes, right? Even when times are tough, you're like, do I really want to be better? I'm not sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Mr. and I may have watched the same sermon yesterday online with one of our favorites, Michael Todd and Transformation Church. And the whole topic was, do you really want to grow up? And he asked his parishioners at home on live stream, say you want to grow up if you want to grow up, but do you want to grow up or not? Because it's choice. It's a choice. And what we're talking about is the iterative process of growing up more and more to lay the foundation, to apply the disciplines, which will in fact leave legacy and endure beyond us for sure. So I wish we could say a lot more on this topic. Oh gosh, it's so much fun talking with you guys. So much more to say on this. Now we're going to move over to a tip about how to live well during the Corona crisis. Calvin.
Sure. Our daily hit of tips of how to live this whole thing well. For today, we got matter of reliving the best of Monday Night Football. Over the next 5 weeks, ESPN will be filling its Monday primetime slot with classic games of the past. Starting today until April 27th, relive the moments that led to team legacies every week. Tonight, the series kicks off with the Rams' 54-51 win against the Chiefs in 2018, the highest scoring contest in Monday Night Football history. So if you're bored and need something to do right now, or honestly just feeling a little nostalgic and kind of want to double down on the legacy of the teams that we care about and love, check out Monday Night Football, reliving the classics. That's our tip for today. Back to you, John.
Now that was a game. I remember that one. I don't remember many games, but that one was a game. A couple of great gunslingers there. Early Pat Mahomes. I find the same thing. Like I'm one of those guys. Like I'm sort of a one and done sports guy. I love sports so much. But I'm always forward looking with it. I want the new experience. I want the new athletic exploit. And I don't like looking back so much to the old games. But I'm actually finding a little pleasure and comfort, not because of boredom exactly, but just sort of say, okay, when you're not looking forward to the next Premier League game on a weekend, or you're not looking forward to the next MLB opening day, you can sort of pause and sort of think about the special things that have come before. And I'm finding that to be really enjoyable these days for myself, and a nice change of rhythm. All right, moving it over to Marissa and what will maybe another discussion topic, although, depending on our time here, we like to profile people that are doing special things to take on the interests of other folks, either hashtag love your neighbor or being our brothers, sisters, keepers. We got a lot of different names for it. We're gonna dial in on one soon enough and with partners and launch that in the next few days. But what do you have for us, Marissa?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Again, I just personally, now that we've started doing this show, being able to dig in and find all sorts of stories about people that are laying it on the line and putting themselves out there for not only their friends and family that might be in need, but total strangers. And so we've got this story today about a guy who cared enough about strangers to go way out of his way. So we've got a couple. Their names are Jim and Kathy Lee. They're an elderly couple. They're from Sarasota, Florida. They were really excited to take kind of like the trip of a lifetime. It was a 4-month-long cruise around the world. But of course, while they're on board, like so many other cruises, the trip was canceled because of Corona. And the cruise line decided to get passengers home from the nearest port, which for them turned out to be Fremantle, Australia. So the other side of the world. Kathy, who's 87 years old, has a lung disorder. Her husband, Jim, 89, has limited mobility. So you can tell they're things were kind of rough with this question about how they're going to get home. And their daughter, Deb, who actually lives in Canada, she lives in Ottawa, she was really concerned about her parents and she had no clue how to get them home. So what she did was, thank goodness for technology, she went to a website called Cruise Critic. And I guess this is like the site for everybody who loves cruises. But so anyway, she asked for help to just the randoms on the site, like, help. If you were, in my position, what would you do? And apparently people sprang to life. And after 10 days, her initial post had received 750 responses and 55,000 people viewed it. And I guess it turned into this huge worldwide expression of love and care and compassion for people. And Deb said that the whole thing was astonishing. And it really restored her faith in humanity. And so her parents, again, people helped. They called, they figured out what they could do. Her parents were lucky enough. They got on 30 straight hours of flights, though, from Perth to Sydney to LA to Tampa. And when they got to LA, Okay, get this. So a retired police officer, who I guess had also, after he retired from the force, went and worked for a cruise line. He I guess spends time on this cruise site too, just like everybody else. And anyway, he saw the posts, he saw what was going on, and when he saw that they were going to come to LA, he decided that he'd go meet them at the airport. He does not know them. He lived 30 miles away. But he figured, you know what, no one else is going to go meet them, so I would. It's the least I could do. So he got them. He met them at the gate or something. He went and took them to where their next flight was going to be. Turned out that flight was canceled. So he took them to 2 other stations to try to find where they could go to get another flight. He stayed with them. He helped them. I guess he updated the folks on the website, the cruise website, because people were following this story, just wanting to make sure these folks got home. And so his name is John Prinz. No relation to me. I'm Prince, but he's Prinz. Anyway, he said people were thanking him from around the world, and that he said he personally doesn't see it as a big thing, but his goal was just to help these people get back home to Tampa and then have a reunion with their daughter. And so their daughter, Deb, told John and everybody on that website that because of this, because her faith was so restored, that she's going to pay it forward. And this is what she said exactly. She said, "There is much kindness in the world. We're all going to need to hang on to that over this rough time. But there are always silver linings, even in awful situations." And she's very thankful for everyone being a silver lining. That's just a crazy story to me. I mean, a dude on a random website with all these thousands of people sees this story, drives over 30 minutes, springs to life to help people he'd never met just because he knew that no one was going to be there to meet them. That's amazing, John Prinz. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in life with some of the crew in this the 6 Squares. A lot with Marissa, as we talked about before, but a lot with this guy, Calvin. And Calvin and I were on the road together a lot when I was running a Senate campaign. And I saw Calvin do this kind of thing all the time. It wasn't through a website. It wasn't distant. But Calvin, what motivates you to step up in those times when you see somebody that, what is it? You've got an unusual antenna for that, friend.
Man, JK, I don't know, brother. I think there's something. I honestly, to go back to what Jeff was talking about and Joel, but there is a sense of there are moments in which we see an opportunity to lean in and to help, right? When actually, even a lot of the stories that we're highlighting before, especially when that leaning in means that you have to either inconvenience yourself or it means going out of your way, it is somewhat uncomfortable and disruptive for you. I think there's something special about, and people really responding to these moments where they know that it is not convenient for you. It's not always easy, that there is somewhat of a cost for loving, to care for someone. And so I think, we see that here with Jim and Kathy and Mr. Prinz, but this idea that it probably wasn't convenient. He did have to go out of his way. That it was something that out of his love, his care for them, there was a cost. But yeah, loving your neighbor. I mean, what does it mean? What does it mean without the cost? The fact that it is inconvenient, that is disruptive, it actually feels like it means a little something more.
Well, it seems to me that it's there's some part about this which is the paying attention part, right? It's what I watch you do, Calvin. We're out on the road together, and you'd be paying attention to the circumstances. You saw somebody meeting something which other people didn't notice, right? So in first instance, it was because you're on your toes, you're keeping your eyes open, you're keeping your ears open, and you're watching. And and it seems that's the same case with John Prinz, right? I mean, he sort of thought about it, right? Well, who else is going to help if I'm not going to help? He did a math equation in his head that other people weren't doing, right? The math equation for him was because he was thinking about it, was like, hey, there's a lot of people getting the call out here, but I suspect nobody's, it's just a website, and it's just, it's digital world. So who's going to actually show up in the physical world? Well, why not be me? So there's something about this whole, especially when the patterns are unusual, right? Maybe you could say, Tom, who's our friend here, the head of Columbia, but Tom Boyle, the head of Columbia. Okay, so he's trained to think about his workforce. Well, that's kind of a pattern thing, Okay, I'm supposed to think about my workforce, and God bless him for thinking about it in a leadership-minded way. But it's these other unusual moments. Oh, I see somebody, in a different situation. Never encountered it like this before, but I'm watching. Anyway, that's one of the things that I take away from this. Jeff,
John, I actually love what you said. I bet we can make a hashtag out of that or something, but just like, why not me? Right?
Why not?
All right.
That idea of
Yeah.
why not me? I mean, Jeff was talking about it. Joel was talking about this idea of being creative in the moment, right? Like, and right now there's no shortage of problems, right? There's no shortage of people hurting out there. So just why not me? Why not me right now?
Yeah,
I love that, Jake.
When there's lots of disruption, it means the problem sets all look a lot different than they looked a week ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago, for sure. And it takes imagination, paying attention, leaning in, be on your front foot. And as you say, why not me? So
there's nothing but opportunity right now. Nothing but opportunity. Love it.
That's a good word. I mean, so what we're saying here is, remember, top of the show, and we'll say it to you guys over and over again every day, you're made for purpose, you're made for meaning, you're made for significance. The patterns are all different right now. The patterns with your family, the patterns with your household, the patterns of watching people out there in need, they're different. But you're made to slot into this. You're made to, as Joel was talking about, overcome the adversities of the day. You're made to be contributing and leaning in. So that's one of the constant encouragements we're going to give each other here. Jeff, it looks like you got something for me there. You got something, Jeff? You feel like you're leaning in, ready to say something good.
Me? No, I got nothing on this. I was just loving it. I just thought that was good. I was leaning into the goodness.
Well, you got a little goodness coming your way, though, because we're gonna jump over to the movie line of the day.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and I won't drop the ball this time, even though Shawshank Redemption was one of my favorite movies of all time. Totally dropped the ball, and I got shamed. Another favorite movie of mine of all time today, where I won't drop the ball. And speaking about overcoming adversity, you will never feel more like you can overcome adversity than after you watch Gladiator. You can take on the world. You can take on
Real talk.
take on any challenges ever just by following in the mentorship of Russell Crowe as what is his name again? Maximus Aurelius or something?
Maximus. Yes.
It's phenomenal. So with that being said, here is one of the best movies of all time with a movie line.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
There you go.
Quick one today. That's all you needed was 3 seconds.
All you need.
Change your life.
Echoes in eternity, baby. Echoes in eternity. Woo! You can't top that. But Josh Jacobs is going to try to top that as he brings us out with the music. Josh, what do you have for us, man?
Good old hymn. I'm gonna do him. Yeah, this is Beat Out My Vision. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, and not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best art, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I am with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, and I thy true Son. Thou in me. romancing days down mine inheritance now and always, thou and thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. High King of heaven, my victory won. May I reach heaven's joys, oh bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, oh ruler of all.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Nothing better for the soul, at least for my soul, than to do a little bit of old Irish hymns. Great stuff. I love that. I love that. Thank you very much. Just a little teaser for tomorrow. We're going to go back to Nashville for some more live music, and Dan Hazeltine bringing us some action from Nashville. Also, we're going to leave you with one teaser discussion topic for tomorrow. Question is, what does it mean to be truly, authentically being with other human beings? Now that the whole deck has gotten reshuffled, physical presence and emotional connection and all that, really profound questions about what it is to really be connected, which really get pressed upon by the changing circumstances. We know the dynamics are so different now. So what does it mean about this moment, but also about what we're going to take out of this moment and going forward? What does it mean to truly and authentically be with another human being and how connected and leaning into their lives and meaningful relationship? So we'll take that up tomorrow. And meanwhile, between now and then, remember, God loves you. God's with you. God's bringing you through this time. You're made for purpose, meaning, significance. We're all praying for you. Keep doing what you're doing and keep fighting a good fight all. Thanks so much now. See you tomorrow.